start with the session, and I'm waiting for others to join the session. Meanwhile, sir, let's not waste much time. I guess we should start with it.
Okay, then I'll go straight in. Greetings to everyone. I hope we've got good audio and video today. Thanks for coming, and it's quite a short webinar today about the Module 9 Leadership Essay, because quite a few people seem to be having some problems with this. And first, I think I should explain what we are trying to achieve in the Module 9 Leadership course. So really, in this module, we're trying to get you to become familiar with the key attributes of effective leadership and how they apply to procurement and supply chain management. To identify your own leadership profile and develop a personal plan to improve your leadership style. To become better equipped to work effectively with others. If you understand the leadership styles, if you know about them, you can usually work more effectively with your colleagues. And then how to manage change. How are you going to bring about changes in leadership styles and leadership modules? So that's quite a lot to achieve in one module. Usually management training of this type takes about a year. So we're just giving you the little taste of it, how it applies to supply chain in this module. And in the essay for this module, what we're trying to achieve is for you to demonstrate that you've understood the objectives of the leadership module. And that means you know about leadership models. You know what the different models are. You can identify leadership models. Maybe you couldn't identify them at the time you were working in that environment. But after completing this module, you can look back and say, that was an autocratic leadership style, or that was a democratic leadership style, or a laissez-faire style. And you can identify your own leadership style. How do you go about leading? And then that you have a personal leadership skills development plan. How are you going to develop your leadership skills? Because in this module, we can only just touch on leadership skills, not how to develop them. So how are you going to take it forward in the future? And that you understand how to manage change to bring that about. How are you going to bring about this leadership development? So that's really what we're trying to achieve in the essay. Unfortunately, about 50% of the people who submit the essay the first time fail. It gives the impression that this essay is really hard to do. And today I want to explain it's not hard at all. The reason people fail on first submission, and we always consult and allow multiple submissions, is that half of them don't meet the length requirement. The essay needs to be 1,000 words. Many of them come in at 500 words. 500 is not 1,000. You need 1,000 words. So you need to write enough. 1,000 words is about 2 pages of A4. That's all. It's not that long. It's not that hard to do 1,000 words. The other half of the failures are because they've not answered any of the questions. We've set you 3 questions. You need to answer those 3 questions in the essay. Sometimes I get a really excellent essay, but there's no connection to any of the questions. That will not score a pass grade. The key reason why they're failing is people are not applying themselves. They're not looking at the conditions of the essay, the length and the 3 questions. So in order to pass, it's really easy. All you've got to do is read the questions. answer the questions and measure the length of your essay, a word count. So it's around 1,000 words. It really, really is that simple. Read the questions, answer the questions. There's no tricks. It's not complicated. It's not especially difficult. It's just 1,000 words to answer 3 questions. So question 1 is, how have you applied some of these leadership styles and models in your work environment? Now, at the time you were working, you may not have understood the leadership styles, but now you've completed the module, you can look back and say, I didn't know it at the time, but that was an autocratic leadership style. So what we want to see in your answer to this question is a brief description of your work environment. I am working in an NGO or the government warehouse or the Ministry of Health or a pharmaceutical manufacturer, and my main job is. Then we want you to mention 2 leadership models that you have seen in your experience. If you haven't been working yet, you can take your university or school time and describe some of the leadership models there. How were some of the teachers? How were some of the managers at the companies, the places you've worked? Then, at least one leadership model that you have followed. Doesn't mean that you had to be in charge. Maybe your boss was an autocratic leader or a transformational leader. Which style do you have to follow? And how did you feel about following that style? Did you like it, not like it, or what's your overall impression? So we want to see 2 models that you have seen and 1 that you have followed. If you've got more, that's fine, but that's the minimum we want to see. How have you applied some of these leadership styles and models in your work environment? That's all. About 350 words will get you there easily. Little bit of a description of where you're working and the leadership styles that you have seen. What we do not want to see is a 4-page description about how wonderful your project is and how you solved all the malaria issues in your country. Very interesting, but it's not answering the question. We do not want to see copies of academic books pasted in about leadership models. You've already been given the course on what the leadership models are. What we want to see is, what have you observed in your environment? We don't want a long discussion on the need for leadership. Yeah, we all know leadership is needed. That's not the question, why it's needed. We want to know what you have seen, what you have observed. And don't try and cut and paste articles on leadership. Our software for plagiarism detection is very sensitive and it will catch them all. So all you have to do is answer the question, what leadership models have you seen in your environment and how do you feel about them? That's simple. Question number 2. Think of someone you've worked closely with. What behavior traits made them effective and what behavior traits made them ineffective? So we want 1 person. What leadership style do you think they use? More than 1 is okay. You can state more than 1, but clearly state they use the autocratic, or they use the transformational, or they use the democratic, or the consultative style. Which style did they use? Which part of that style was effective in your environment? You don't have to like it. What we're asking is how effective it is. Which part of that style was not effective? Key point is, we're not asking about good or bad, whether these people were good or bad. We're asking, what did you see as being effective? What worked well, what didn't work well? So again, it's observation. Look at a person. What is their style? What part of it was good? What part of it was not effective? What we do not want is a 3-page description of how terrible your boss was and how terribly he treated you and a long list of complaints. Neither is it about good or bad people. Our question is about effective. Which part of the leadership style was effective and which part was not effective? That's all we need to answer the question. Question number 3, and the one that causes the most difficulties. Which traits do you feel you lack in leadership, and how do you plan to strengthen these weaknesses? So what we want to see is an honest evaluation of your own leadership skills and a practical plan to address those weaknesses. That plan could be online training, or assertive skills development, or as simple as keeping a diary and looking each week, well, how did that work out? That was good, that was not so good, to help develop your leadership skills. You can also include peer-to-peer discussions, talking about situations with your friends, with your colleagues, seeing how they feel about it. That will help your leadership style develop. Key point here, we want to see a plan on how you are going to develop yourself. You don't need to sign up for high-powered courses and 2-year MBAs to improve your leadership skill. We want a simple, straightforward plan how you intend to improve your skill mix. What we do not want to see is a 3-page description of how wonderful your leadership skills are and every major project you've undertaken. Just reading a book is not going to address your leadership skills. It can help, it can be part of the plan, but just reading a book on its own is not a plan to improve your leadership skills. And neither is ignoring them, saying, well, I know I'm not very assertive, but there's nothing I can do about it. That's not a plan to develop your skills. Okay, a few tips. Length. If you're using Microsoft Word or any of the word processors, there is a word count function. In Microsoft Word, it's in the review menu. You go to word count, you count how many words you've written. And I can tell you, that's the first thing we do when we receive your essays. We do a word count. And if it's less than 900 words, it will fail. So we've asked for 1,000 words. We will not accept less than 900. If it's more than 1,000 words, that's okay, but you will not get any extra marks for long length. But we don't penalize you if it's 2,000 words. Please put your name on the essay. 90% of essays arrive with no names on them, and we have to trace them from the email address. So please put your name on the essay. And not less than 900 words. The target is 1,000. We can be a little bit flexible. If it's more, that's okay. But 500 words is not 1,000. That's the target. That's what we have to try and achieve. 2 sheets of A4. So what are my key points? Read the questions. Answer the questions. It really, really, really is that simple. That's all that's required. Okay, Q&A time, your chance to ask questions now. If you want to raise your hand and we'll try and get to you, and then okay, you can type in the chat box or you can raise your hand. Don't see any hands, so if you want to raise your hand, yeah, it's under reactions on the bottom of the screen with a raise hand icon. I see we've got over 40 people on this webinar and we've got no questions. It must be too easy for you to answer it. Huh? So everyone is going to send me a 1,000-word essay on leadership and we're going to have 100% pass rate. If it's easier, just unmute and speak. Okay, we have a question here. I've submitted my essay in PDF, no problem at all. It doesn't need to be in Word. We'll accept most formats. That's perfectly okay. It doesn't need to be in Word. PDF is fine. If you're in Open Office, that's fine. Most of the Word formats we can accept. We can also do a word count in PDF, so it's okay. We've got a hand raised, which is from Almakio. Please unmute and go ahead and ask your question.
Yes, Professor, how are you?
Doing good.
Thanks for the guidance. My question is just about the use of the word leadership skills and leadership traits. So what I know, when you talk about the skills, is the ones that we're talking about, either democratic, autocratic, or laissez-faire. And then the skills, the traits are either being charismatic, being intelligent, you know, all those things that people say maybe you're born with or you can learn. So does this course differentiate them like that? Or when you're talking about the traits in the third question, it's still talking about the skills?
Right, okay. During the course, we do differentiate between the two. For the essay, no. You can take either of them. Technically, traits are your personality, and skills are what the arts that you have developed. So being a charismatic leader is really a trait. It's not a skill that you can easily develop. But identify either one, traits or skills, we'll accept both for the essay. During the course, we differentiate between the two to show which can be developed, which can't be. I don't know how to become charismatic. I don't know anyone who can teach you that. I do know how to become a good leader and how to have different styles of leadership and how those skills can be developed. So skills can be developed, traits, not really.
Thank you very much. That's clear.
Okay, thank you. We have any more questions? It must be all too easy for you. Okay, is this question for those of us that have reached the module? Don't have to have reached the module. You can ask questions about any aspect of leadership today. We'll try and answer them. Talking about leadership is not that easy. How effective was he that will take us to talk about the good and the bad leader? We try not to talk about good and bad. We try to talk about effective and not effective. Maybe the person leading, you don't like them. They're not very nice people, but they're effective. So we separate good and bad out, and we look at effective, not effective. Right in the wrongdoings, no. What we're asking for is of bosses, good or bad. We're not asking for good or bad. We're writing about, are they effective or not effective? Good and bad is a personal judgment. Effectiveness can be measured. So do you feel they're effective or not effective is what we're asking for. Is what if it was autocratic but effective? Yes, it can be. In some environments, the autocratic leadership style is very effective. I don't like it. A lot of people don't like the autocratic style. But we have to admit, in some environments, it can be effective. So again, the question is around effectiveness. Is it effective or not effective? Situation leadership where it sometimes may be required to do so. Yes, if we take the autocratic style, in conflict zones, sometimes that's the only style you can adopt. You're not able to consult. You don't have the lines of communication with other people. You have to use an autocratic style. So there can be situations where different styles are appropriate, which is why we ask you to describe your environment and what styles you felt worked well in that environment. Can we participate in the essay even though some of us have not reached the leadership module? No, not yet. You have to complete the module before you can write the essay. I've realized that the course viewership has been stripped away after the course in early June, and it's difficult to read again the questions. Yes, I think if you drop us an email there to Priya, we can look at giving you access to the course material. Okay, if anyone else wants to use the chat box, okay, or raise a hand. How can we practically evaluate which aspect of our leadership style is not working? Well, of course, we use KPI, key performance indicators. We use indicators to see what is working. It's difficult to form the KPI to get them to be able to measure how effective activities are. Often it takes time, it can be a year or more before we can get that feedback. But by putting the measurements in place, we do eventually get the feedback. Simple feedback could be on your style is, how many days off work are the staff taking? If the staff are off work a lot, maybe I don't have an effective leadership style. Maybe I need to look at different styles. If the staff are always in work and very rarely away, then I've probably got a good work environment. I have a good leadership styles. That can be one of the many measurements of the KPI, these key performance indicators that we use to measure leadership styles and effectiveness. Should submissions be strictly on PDF? No, we'll accept any document. We recommend PDF because then it's frozen. It can't be edited or changed, but we will accept Word or OpenOffice or any readable format that is available. If you want to write in HTML or super EXTML, we can probably read that as well. So Word documents, PDFs, other formats are fine, no problem. But do remember, it has to be around 1,000 words. Word count in PDF is not so easy, but we can do word count in PDF as well.
I hope, sir, the question answer session is done now. So thank you so much for such an informative session, and I hope all the candidates who are joined right now, I have gone through the Q&A, and I hope there are no other questions to be asked.
Okay, I've got one last one in the box there,
Yes,
Priya.
yes.
I have submitted altogether 1,000 words, including question words. Is it okay? Yes, because we allow you 900. So even if you include the questions, you're still okay. It's a little bit naughty, but not to worry. We allow that. We're not so strict. We're asking for around 1,000 words. Okay, if we're done then.
Okay, then also I would like to inform the people who are joined in this session that next one we are planning to host guidance session on module 10, which is final case study, and I guess that is one of the most important module of the course. So I would request you also please join the session for the next one. The date will be announced soon, in a day or two.
Okay, so that will be a briefing on how to complete the module 10 dissertation. Okay, and that's a longer briefing. That's about a 1-hour webinar.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir. So
all right, then my thanks
I
to
guess,
all.
Yeah, we can just wind off the session now. Thank you so much for joining in. If you have any question or anything else you would like to ask, feel free to contact me on my email ID. And sir, I have already shared the PPT with the in the chat box so that they can go through it again.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, bye for now.
Thank you so much for joining.